Today, I'll be taking a look at Ducktales number 9 from Dynamite. It's written by Brandon Montclair with art by Tommaso Ronda, and the main cover being done by Ivan Bigarella. The last issue was the first one that was really a letdown, and it was the first Dynamite Disney Afternoon comic in a while that I didn't recommend. So we'll see if this issue can bounce back. It starts off with Scrooge, Huey, Dewey, Louie, Doofus Drake, and Launchpad McQuack at the Black Forest Trail. This is also where we get the title for the issue. Ducktales, starring Uncle Scrooge with Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Be Prepared. Scrooge and Launchpad are watching Huey, Dewey, and Louie as part of their Junior Woodchuck's survival test. And Doofus Drake is here, which is Huey, Dewey, and Louie are not very happy about. Then Webigail Vanderquack shows up, aka Webby, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie are even less happy to see her, where they very quickly come up with a plan to manipulate Doofus into staying behind at the camp with Webby. Launchpad doesn't think it's a very good idea to leave Doofus behind with Webby, but Scrooge thinks it's okay. So Huey, Dewey, Louie, Launchpad, and Scrooge all continue down the trail, and they leave Doofus and Webigail to watch the camp. After not too long of walking, they come across a rope bridge, which makes Launchpad nervous, but Scrooge isn't deterred and thinks everything is fine. Right up until the rope bridge breaks, like what happens to pretty much any story involving rope bridges, and they end up getting stuck in a valley. As they're trying to figure out what to do, Hugh ends up discovering a duck-billed, web-footed gigantorachnid, which is basically a spider with a duck bill and webbed feet. But Scrooge disregards what the nephews are trying to tell him, since he says that that type of spider has been extinct for millennia, and that the real concern should be escaping. Which is then we get the classic "how does this get worse" gag, where Launchpad says, "at least it isn't raining," and then as soon as he says that, you get lightning and then it starts pouring. We cut back to the base camp where we see Doofus and Webby roasting marshmallows and try to keep themselves preoccupied. Doofus is trying his best to try to keep Webby calm, but then a lightning strike causes him to freak out. The next morning, Huey, Dewey, Louie, Scrooge, and Launchpad still haven't returned to base camp, so Webby actually ends up taking charge and ends up convincing Doofus to go out and look for them. It turns out that Scrooge, Launchpad, Huey, Dewey, and Louie had actually slept in the ravine. Huey ends up noticing the spider just as he's threatening to step on it. An adult duck-billed, web-footed gigantorachnid shows up, and it tries to squash them. Launchpad and Scrooge end up getting webbed up. And then we cut back to the base camp, where Doofus has paced in a circle so much that he ends up digging a trench. And Webby mistakes Doofus' nervousness for him being brave, which then gives Doofus the motivation to actually be brave, and they charge off to look for them for real. We cut back to see that Scrooge, Launchpad, Huey, Dewey, and Louie are all webbed up, and things are looking bad for them. But then they hear singing. They look up and they see that Doofus and Webby have arrived. Doofus jumps off the cliff and smacks the adult spider with his banjo. And as he's distracting the spider, Webby goes to rescue everyone who's been webbed up. And after Webby saves Huey, Dewey, and Louie, she's not very happy with them that they left her behind with Doofus. And she takes her frustration out on the giant spider off panel. With everyone saved and the spider running off, back at the base camp, it's time for the official merit badge ceremony, where Uncle Scrooge is giving out the self-discovery merit badge. And it ends up going to Senior Junior Woodchuck Doofus Drake, which then everyone applauds him. But then in a show of humility, Doofus ends up ripping his merit badge in half and giving part of it to Webby. He couldn't have saved the day without her. And that's how the comic ends, as we get a tease for the next issue, which is going to be a winter-themed one. And now for my thoughts on the comic. I'd say that this is a return to form. It is a big step up from the previous issue and gets things back on track. They bring in a couple more classic characters with Doofus and Webigail and Launchpad, who are all in character and all behave like how they would in an episode of the classic show. The story is easy to follow, that all come together at the end. A couple of the characters get little arcs. We get to see the other side of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, the more mischievous, more kind of bratty side that you'd see a lot in the original series, with how they treat Doofus and Webigail. The characters don't get specifically what they were after, but end up getting something more important instead. One thing that I was very happy to see is that when Launchpad's talking to Scrooge, he refers to him as Mr. McD, like he would in the original series. As well as also, Scrooge starts to use more of his Scottish isms now, like referring to them as lads and saying I and other stuff he would say in the original series that up until this point had mostly been absent. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. It was also good to see that while Webby and Doofus were in character, they didn't cross the line into being annoying like they would in the original show a lot of the time. This is definitely a good comic that I definitely recommend. Till next time, see ya.